Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Formula, and we're live ahead of qualifying for the Las Vegas Grand Prix. I'm still up, Zach's still up, but it's a much bigger feat, Zach, for you. How you feeling?
All right. Yeah, it's my sleep schedule is not going to be happy after this weekend, but I can't miss racing. Just love it too much.
Well, we appreciate you being here, and we appreciate all of you for checking in with us. We have a very wild hour ahead of us because we had 3 free practice sessions that were very crazy and haven't left us with a lot of firm answers. So we're going to have to sift through it, figure out what we do know, and make some strong predictions so we can lock in our teams ahead of qualifying. So let us know what your teams and your questions are in the chat. Make sure you like if you haven't already, and be sure to say hi. Zach and I need to distract ourselves from some of this craziness and say hello to you along the way. Race Maven breaking the ice. Hello, Race Maven.
Hello,
Welcome
Race
along.
Maven.
All right, let's fire up some of these FP3 times and just talk through what we saw. For the first 40 minutes or so of the session, because it had rained all day, they were on intermediate tires. And the likes of Hulkenberg and Gasly didn't even get out of the garage until the last 15 minutes of the session. So it was very hectic in the last third of the session. And so once these guys got out there, they were trying to put out the fastest possible lap on soft tires. It took them a while to get their sea legs, get that grip. But then ultimately, George Russell was at the top of the pile, followed closely by Max Verstappen. And in a lot of those early runs, Max was the faster of the two cars. I think George had one of the very last full runs. So I think he had a little bit of track advantage toward the end. The big story from FP3, though, Zach, all the way down at the bottom, Piastri and Norris 19th and 20th. This was a bizarre one because Lando was the first one to fit a soft while everyone was on inters, was going around the circuit, could barely hold on to the car. And so he had some really terrible times. Then after everyone was starting to ramp up with their soft runs, Lando had a pretty good run. He had a green sector 1, purple sector 2, and then he volunteered himself out of the lap and pitted in sector 3. So we don't know how fast he was. So then they just boxed the car and he never came out again as all the other cars were improving. Similarly, Piastri, a little less optimistic. I think he topped out at about P12 while everybody was going through these faster laps. Then he boxed right after Norris and then never came back out while everyone else improved. So the cars are fine. McLaren seems to be holding their cards very close to their chest, but what does that mean for the constructor? I'm seeing the questions already popping up.
Yeah, it is an absolute nightmare trying to figure out exactly what we need. But I really do want to stress this so much in the sense of I do think even with McLaren down there, we don't know exactly where they would be exactly in the pecking order. We really don't know at this point. But from what we've seen, from the conditions that are on the track right now to where we're going to be heading in quali, FP3 is definitely the best situation we're going to find for anything out there. It doesn't look like we're going to be seeing these FP2 conditions that we had. So we have to go with FP3. So I think that does mean Mercedes, which I was already quite happy to roll on, looks like the way to go. I really just am a little bit worried about McLaren. I think I'm in a similar position to a lot of people where I'm happy to stick with McLaren as a constructor in the sense of this. So in F1 Fantasy, as we all know, you've either got 2 free transfers or 3 free transfers. We know in Qatar and Abu Dhabi, McLaren most likely will be the fastest car on the grid. So you don't want to go too differential trying to move out of that. So I'm happy to move over to someone like a Verstappen Russell build, still with McLaren. It also diversifies, like not putting your eggs in one basket. But also at the same time, I could very much understand where if this is very much a, like I like to say, a risk it for a chocolate biscuit moment. If you need those rank movements, this is the time to do it. Risk it.
And you know, one of the big signs for me that I shouldn't go too crazy with the constructors this weekend was our friend Andrew, Leaps Frog. He won the Global League last year, and now he's in Las Vegas in the paddock this weekend. And he had been talking all year, watch Las Vegas. It's going to be probably the craziest race for switching your team around. But this morning, he posted the most likely lineup for him, and it still includes the McLaren constructor. So even he's starting to pull back a little bit. So my first thought here is maybe mix up the top of the lineup, have something like a Verstappen and a George Russell who look good in FP3, which is very similar conditions to what we're going to see in an hour, and then keep the McLaren constructor so I'm not moving my team around so much in Qatar and Abu Dhabi where they're going to be so good.
Yeah, what 100% agree. It's just, especially in Qatar, I really do think you have to be careful in the sense of there's only so much you can go differential until you're taking those minus tens. And that can really be detrimental because at the end of the day, McLaren won't be 20th and 90th. But worst case scenario, they'll be 5th to 8th, which still isn't terrible as a constructor wise. And I'm still confident in both of them getting into Q3 if it goes the way I think it's going to go. But yeah, I really do think just Norris has that 2 times. No, I do think it's potentially Russell the way to go for that 2 times now.
And if you think back to 2023, McLaren had such a tough time getting out of Q1. They had, I think, both drivers stuck in Q1. And even though this is a high overtake circuit, neither of them had a huge day all told. I think they finished 7th and 8th, or they were the bottom of the top 10. So the line that I've been saying all week is that Lance Stroll has more championship points through 2 races in Las Vegas than either of the 2 McLaren drivers. So it gives me a little bit of pause about running Lando. Maybe I'm going to stick with the constructor, though. Ooh, that gave us just enough time for some of our friends to enter the chat. We've got Juicebox, Brian, Race Maven, Mike's here. Thanks for coming along, Mike. Rick's along. So we got a full house here. Simon is here too. We were chatting a bit on our YouTube video earlier this week. I know there's a lot of interesting decisions for all of us.
Simon, he brings up an interesting point as well, asking, is Verstappen instead of Norris worth a minus 10? I still don't think that's worth a minus 10. Purely in the sense of, I think it would be most people bringing Norris Russell or Verstappen Russell. And my money is still on Mercedes being the one to beat right now after what we've seen throughout the questionable practice sessions.
Yeah, they're looking quite good. And the most recent sims from F1 Fantasy Tools came out just before we went live here. You could see a bit of a shift. Norris had been running P1 in terms of points all throughout the weekend, but now Verstappen is ahead of him. George Russell right up behind him. Not a point between Norris and Russell at this point. So clearly the sims are thinking that McLaren are taking a bit of a step back. But if you come down to the bottom here, not so big a step back that they're going to struggle with their constructor points. And I think this is partly because they've sent both drivers into Q3 in every single race this season. So as long as they don't have a huge moment in Q1, they should be good for those points. 2 drivers in and around the top 10, a little bit of fastest pit stop points, and then we're most of the way to 60 points at that point. Who's better for points, Sainz or Gasly? Oh man, Gasly's looked good in so many sessions this weekend. It's hard to deny him, but Sainz was also pecking around the top 10. If we look here, Sainz at 6.5. Oh, here we go. Sainz at 4.5 and Gasly at 5.8. Just a point between them. So it's who gets that one overtake. I would say probably Sainz slightly, but Gasly probably the better long-term hold, because I think the points from the last 2 races are going to come around come Qatar, and he should have a good price bump too if you have him.
I think it's not obviously something we can take like 100% coming into this race. But the way I think about it, Alpine are in a very similar situation that they were last year here, where even if Gasly had an incredible qualifying, and I don't expect him to be 3rd again, but even if he had incredible quali, he dropped down so quickly before the DNF. I worry about Gasly's race pace. And I'm very much more confident in Sainz is a little bit more crash heavy, but I'm much more confident if Sainz qualified like a 15th to move up. Whereas if Gasly was 8th, I'd be scared that he would move down to like a 12th or 13th.
It's a fair point. The Alpine race form has been pretty lousy these last long while, several months. Ooh, Simon wants to know Verstappen and Norris versus Verstappen and Russell. When in doubt, I mean, I'm looking at the betting lines here. They're still 1 and 2, Verstappen and Norris. This gap is as wide as it's been all weekend, but I would still take Norris over Russell, even though their odds are now neck and neck.
Yeah, it's so close. And it's really not something that like is like an no, it is exciting to say this in the sense of F1 fantasy wise, but it's just one of those weekends where we've just haven't got much from FP1, FP2, FP3, and you sort of just have to go with where we are right now. We know Verstappen in the rain is consistent. He can deliver when we can. I'm worried that this is the sort of thing where we know McLaren isn't perfect around this track. If this was a track where McLaren was to have an absolute meltdown, it would be Vegas. This is what worries me.
To your point about Max, I think that's another big point. It's still wet. Producer Greg is in Las Vegas right now and tells us that it is raining still. The F1 Academy race has dealt with some rain that just wrapped up a moment ago. And if you think about the entire second half of the season since the summer break, the pole sitter has won the Grand Prix. So I'm really looking at the next hour. Who is going to stick it on pole? And in wet conditions, I trust nobody more than Max.
Yeah. Well, I completely agree. It has to be Verstappen. I'm very excited to see this qualifying session. It is going to be one of the best qualifying sessions of the season. And in F1 fantasy terms, it's going to be mayhem. It will be.
Producer Greg reminds me that I might have undersold the rain. 2 of the 3 big championship contenders had racing incidents that crashed them out of the race in the F1 Academy race, and the rain did play a part in that. So fingers and toes crossed so we don't have that sort of excitement in qualifying.
I will say, coming off the poll that we've just had on asking who is your 2 times driver, this is what makes me really interested, because now we're getting into the final part of the season. We're seeing a lot of swings from race to race of if it's Lando. Lando in Mexico was only 30% owned, then jumped up the order. Now, in our rankings, Max is 55% of everyone's 2 times option, with Lando 29%, someone else 14%, which I could assume is Russell. So Russell to Max is a massive, massive jump, which I'm surprised at how big that gap is.
That is strange, isn't it? And hopefully that means so many of you took advantage of his Brazilian Grand Prix result that he's still in your lineup and you got all those points last time out. I would definitely be jealous of that. Ooh, Juicebox wants to know 3x on Max, 2x on Kimi. I like Max. This scares the heck out of me. I would say give it 1 week. You've got Qatar, a very dry track. Now they've got the 2 pit stop minimum. I think you're going to have a little bit more of an organized race in terms of expecting the outcome. I would save that exact lineup for next week.
Yeah, I'm not even. I think I'm not allowed to talk about the weather anymore, considering what I said last time out and now what Vegas is like. I think, yeah, weather's not the way I'm going to go right now.
Right. Similar question from Dreets in the chat. Would you keep Verstappen for Vegas and roll a transfer or swap him for Norris? Well, I would keep Verstappen for Vegas and roll a transfer.
100%. 100%. I think it's one of those things, like, even still, like, if we take my team or a lot of people's teams out there, I think a lot of people did run Norris in Brazil. Just make sure you're not cutting yourself out of being good in Qatar and Abu Dhabi. So I think for a lot of people, it's going to be getting that 8-year driver right. That 2 times is very, very crucial right now. And also, if you can roll a transfer and you have Verstappen, that means 100% you'll be able to get back to a Norris team for Qatar, which most likely will be a McLaren track. And that's best of both worlds. That means you can then set up your team for Vegas and then move over to Qatar. I do worry when people are doing these 2 free transfers or 3 free transfers and they're changing everything. This is what I worry also about the Verstappen. No, it wasn't Verstappen. It was the Piastri, Antonelli, Russell teams, purely because you're sort of stuck there. And unless Piastri is good in Qatar, you're going to struggle a little bit there.
No, agreed. We were talking about some crazy things earlier in the week, like a Red Bull Ferrari constructor pairing, but it's just such a mess to get all the way out of that come Qatar next weekend. Rebecca's in the chat. Hi, Rebecca. Hope you had a good trip. I don't know if you're still traveling or if you're home now, but great to see you. Let's see. Question in the chat with the lineup: Norris, Russell, Hadjar, Ocon, Gasly, McLaren, Mercedes, or Verstappen, Russell, Colapinto, Behrman, Gasly, McLaren, Mercedes. So it's pick a Haas driver, pick an Alpine driver, Verstappen versus Norris.
I think right now it has to be Verstappen Russell from what we've seen. I think that's where my mind is going towards.
And neither Haas looks terribly good right now. I think if we go back here to the practice sessions, yeah, they were outside the top 10. If we look at the betting lines, they're way at the bottom here. So I think Ocon and Behrman might be a bit of a coin flip, but Ali has a very, very safe threshold for going up 0.6 million, and at least sets you up better for next week.
Yeah, and I think that brings us nicely to the issue of where do we draw the line now? Well, I'm happy to stick with someone like a Behrman purely for, if he qualified 18th, I'd actually be quite excited because of what we know Behrman is like to get those overtakes, get those position gained points, which could really, really help us. I'm happy to stick with someone like him, but I couldn't say the same for Gasly. And that's where you've got to be careful on the budget side of things, because I do think unless you're a million less away from a team from your desired team for Qatar, it's not worth pushing the budget because there's just not enough time left. There really isn't enough time.
Zach, we've been doing Terry a disservice by not pushing for likes in the first 15 minutes of the hour. So if you can hear us, please make sure you hit that like button. There's a lot of streams going on out there, and hopefully we can out-like a lot of them.
What are we saying? We've got to get to 75 before we show what teams we're going towards?
Oh my goodness. In the middle of the night in Europe, I'd be stunned if but I'm happy to give it a shot.
Let's push for it.
Wesley, split the difference between Verstappen and the McLaren Constructor. That's where I'm leaning. Yeah, just basically ride with what we think the hottest hand will be with Verstappen as the 2X driver, and the McLaren Constructor is probably safe enough. Most of the Global League Top 500 is running with them. I think it was 99+% as of Brazil. And then that's one less transfer would have to make come Qatar next week. That's my first thought at it, but it wouldn't be crazy to go to Red Bull this week.
I also do just think, for me, it looks like Mercedes are the team to beat. So especially when Verstappen isn't the top gunner for first place, it still comes into the fact of, I think if McLaren's were 6th and 7th after qualifying, they'd probably still score more points than Verstappen in 2nd and Tsunoda in 15th, which is a very realistic situation that could happen. So I just don't think there's enough upside to getting rid of McLaren. Like we also mentioned, then how do you mess about getting back McLaren in your team for Qatar? It's a big hullabaloo that I just don't think is worth it.
Zach, I'm going to ask you a Rebecca question since you have such similar budgets. Do you think it's worth switching Norris and Bortoleto for Verstappen and Behrman? Smells good so far. Then a -10 for Alonso to Hadjar.
I don't think the -10 is worth it. I can tell you that for certain. I again, unless, because this is the thing, right? With the -10s with the B tier drivers, there's only so much you can calculate for. Like even in Brazil, like people like Behrman, Lawson, Hadjar, they wouldn't have got these massive, massive points if Leclerc hadn't had his crash. All of these things hadn't have happened around them. Just a lot of chaos. So I don't think it's worth taking that -10 to get there. However, I do think Verstappen and Behrman might be worth it. I really do, because I can tell you a little sneaky look into what I'm thinking. I might be looking that way. I haven't made my mind up just yet, but I might be looking that way.
Yeah, I agree. I have vowed never again to take a -10 for a B tier driver, because God forbid the guy you put in puts it into the wall tomorrow. Now you're out 30 points, and it's really tough to look yourself in the mirror after that. All right. Let's see what other questions we have going on. A lot of people agree. Do not do the -10.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
It's just so much of a risk taking the -10. And it does sound crazy, because we've had these B tier drivers that have been proving us wrong in the last few weekends. But if you look at like the calendar as a whole, this doesn't happen a lot. It's just crazy that it's happened back to back for Behrman. Normally, we have to wait quite a few races for this to happen. So it is definitely an anomaly for me. So I don't think you can you can't put your eggs in all that basket for a Bearman to go get 30 points over Alonso to get 5 points again this weekend.
I think they're all going to be quite close. A lot of similar questions in the chat too. Sainz versus Ocon and Sainz versus Isaac Hadjar. I was really excited about the Haas drivers going into this weekend, but they've been quite slow in free practice. The sims and the betting lines have them a bit lower, so I'd probably go with Sainz over Ocon, despite thinking the opposite to start the week. Sainz versus Hadjar, probably very close, leaning toward Hadjar because his form has been pretty undeniable. I think both in FP3, he had the inters and the sauce where he was looking very fast consistently.
I agree. I think Hadjar's a really good option. And I do think if I end up going the Verstappen-Russell route, it will be with Bearman, but that's only because I don't have that extra transfer to go over to Hadjar. Maybe I do go Verstappen-Russell Hadjar. I've got 20 minutes to think about it, but it is very, very close. Very, very close.
Fantastic. Let's head over and knock out some of our member lineups too. Ooh, good reminder, Russell's Rivals Mini League last week for that. If you haven't entered, they still do have 10 random prizes for people that play the game, so still not too late to join. And shameless plug, if you didn't see my face on the Mercedes website this week, I had a really fun interview with them talking about why I love the Las Vegas Grand Prix. And it's all because folks like you like and subscribe to the channel. It's elevating our presence in this space, gets us on people's radar, so we have cool experiences like this. So thank you.
I absolutely love seeing that. It was fantastic seeing just how far this has all gone. Phenomenal. Thank you all so much.
Absolutely. All right, let's start it off right with Rebecca. She had hinted at some of her transfer decisions in the chat. These first two teams are looking really good, and it's similar to what she had mentioned. I like the 3 free transfer team. You have Verstappen, Hadjar, Bearman, and then Russell and Gasly. Pretty stout team all the way around. And then hopefully, Rebecca, this isn't where the -10 comes in that you had mentioned earlier. If you're just using 3 free transfers, I like the middle team because you probably won't need more than 2 to get right for Qatar.
Yeah.
But Zach, do you feel like it's worth it that the free transfer Alonso to Hadjar?
I think so from what we've seen right now. I think Hadjar looks like for me, Hadjar looks like he could be the highest scoring B-tier driver from what we've seen right now. And I'm just thinking on the maths wise, 136.7 million. Now, I need to make sure that I'm getting this right, but I believe Verstappen and Bearman could easily swap to Norris and an Alonso for Qatar, and I'd be very happy with that. And if that could be the case, 100%, I agree, middle option is the way to go.
All right, next up, we've got a few fun options here. Now,
I like this.
Now, Rick's not going crazy with this. It's one of those things where for his budget, the only way he's going to get a tier A, 3 tier A assets and the likes of Antonelli on his team is if he goes with these constructors. And they're good constructors. I would avoid this last team because, my goodness, if something happened to Alex Albon, what that would do to your team.
Yeah.
But I like what you're doing there. Yuki's looked really good in the practice sessions, but I would stick with the Red Bull constructor if you want a PC Yuki.
I think it is, for me, it's definitely between option 1 and option 2. And it all depends because in my head, I'm thinking 1 to 8.5 to 1 to 9.1 if we're just localizing Ocon to Gasly. Mm-hmm. Let's say Ocon's, we don't know if he's going to go up 0.2, minus 0.2, etc. Let's just keep it simple and say 0.6 million. I don't think that changes what you can afford in Qatar. And if that's the case, I would go all out and try with Ocon because I have more faith in Haas than I do with Alpine.
Yeah, that logic's perfectly sound. I would probably go with this first team as well for that reason. Haas have looked fantastic since their Mexico upgrades. Not great so far this weekend, but has Alpine really given you much to have faith in?
Ooh, I've just seen a message from Rebecca the middle team was a -10.
Oh, hold on.
So that
Back it
does
up.
change thoughts.
Yes. So now I'm back to team 1.
Yeah, I agree. That would put me back to team 1.
That was easy. All right. Race Maven is going wild card.
Oh, I like this.
Oh my goodness. What?
Yeah.
My first thought, I like team 2. You've got Verstappen and Russell with Behrman, Sainz, and Alonso. If you could move Haas into V-Carb, I'd like it slightly more.
Oh. I'm just trying to think where it could fit in for the rest for Qatar as well, because I'm assuming race Maven. I don't know exactly what chips you've got left, but I'm assuming a wild card potentially into an extra DRS if you still have extra DRS as well. And it's a really hard decision because I don't think it's. I'm scared of if they've only got wildcard left. Yeah, they do only have wildcard left. Actually, I've just seen that final sentence of it. Then I would probably go with option 1. Then, yeah, I think Mercedes. Yeah, I think Mercedes is definitely the constructor that you can't not have this weekend from just what we've seen. It doesn't look like McLaren's the way to go, and I think it could be a little bit worrying if you had McLaren and Haas not with Mercedes.
That is true. Next week would be pretty dicey.
It'd be dicey next week, but I'm just really trying to think where potentially next week, in my head, if I'm getting the maths right, you could go Russell to Norris if Behrman went down to Colapinto. Or at least Russell to Verstappen.
Either that or you'd have to then divest Russell into pumping Haas back up to the likes of a Mercedes. And then you would just have the one tier A asset at the top.
Yeah. I think my heart's going for option 1. It really is. It's scary, but I think my heart's going for it. I think the constructor for this weekend is just too hard not to go for.
Mercedes 1-2 last year, could be another Mercedes shocker this year. At a budget of 124.4 million, I think this is the time to start making some fun moves. If you're in the Mercedes mini league, this is the kind of thing that will win it. The max teams they're going to be too boring. You'll be caught with everybody else. But this could be the kind of thing that makes big moves. I'm with Zach. Final answer, first one.
Oh, it's scary.
You've convinced
you have to make these moves, yeah.
All right, and last but certainly not least, Brian. So Brian started the week with the Williams constructor, and so now he's just trying to slide his way back into a more traditional team. Here's where things might get a little dicey, but Zach, you'd mentioned this earlier. If he sticks with one of the two teams you see here, I think I'm leaning toward the middle team. He wouldn't be able to move Lando to max without taking a -10, and those margins probably aren't that big.
Yeah, I agree. Just when we're thinking potentially that it's not going to be more than a -10, I agree. The margin's just not there.
All right, and I think that's it. Fantastic. We'll come back here while we answer some more questions. Silver Penguin, who's the best Tier B driver this week? All right, so the cop-out answer is Kimi Antonelli because he's still technically a B-tier driver. But then the best of the proper budget drivers, the cheap drivers, let's assume Antonelli and Tsunoda are out of the running because they're more than 10 million. I do really like the two V-carb drivers this week. Hadjar slightly over Lawson. They've looked fast in every session. Behrman has been he's made it to Q3 and he's collected championship points in 4 straight races. So, I mean, that's form you can't really deny. Carlos Sainz has been pretty steady second half of the season. Those guys stand out to me. Did I miss anything?
I will say, Adam, we have hit over 75 likes already.
Stop it.
Yeah, it's scaring me because I have not got my team ready.
All right, how about this? Let me come over to Twitter here. I have locked in my team. Actually, let me make sure that the post that I scheduled actually came through, so I don't have a huge tease for everybody. All right, it did come through. Let's refresh. I'll show you what I did. Ta-da! So, 2 moves on this team. Went Norris to Verstappen. I really like Max's form in the rain. Fresh power unit from Brazil. The pole sitter has won the Grand Prix in every race since the second half started. I like Max. Now, rather than carry a transfer into Qatar, I made a bold move here. Carlos Sainz for Isaac Hadjar. Bringing in Hadjar because I trust the form. Now, of course, something's going to happen to Isaac because that's been my luck all season. I don't have the budget to get out of Gasly and Colapinto unless I want to take a -10 at this point. So rolling with the Alpine in its first race in a while. So this is a team that sets me up really nicely because I do have that extra DRS boost for Qatar, and I think Lando, Russell, Verstappen, Russell. I'm probably in that ballpark. 2 free transfers around the bottom, and everything should come out fine.
Yeah, I really like this team lineup. It's making me question exactly where I'm going for my team, but I definitely agree with exactly where your mind was for it. It just does not look like a McLaren driver is needed for the 2 times right now. And if you can get back to it for Qatar, why not?
Easy peasy.
Yeah.
Feel free, Zach, if you have pondering to do, or if you got to set your lineup, I can knock out some questions in the
I
chat.
can tell you, I'm getting it ready right now. I'm just trying to figure out also how myself gets back to being able to afford someone like a Norris or a Norris basically for Qatar.
There you go. Zach's gonna be doing some long division over there. DVS wants to know, take a -10 to get over to a Verstappen build. It depends. If the build doesn't require a -10 and you have a perfectly good team with Norris, I'd say don't do it. This is like our advice to Brian and BZ earlier. The margins between the two of them are close enough where we prefer Verstappen, but not so much that we take a -10 for him. All right. Verstappen, Russell, Haas, or Russell, Antonelli, Red Bull. Whew. I'm gonna need a minute to think about that.
Wow.
Verstappen, Russell, Haas.
It's so hard when a B tier constructor comes into it because that really does affect how the rest of the team will perform.
Here, look at this though. If you see the Sims, Mercedes at 58.7, Haas all the way down here at 16.6. So you're losing 42-ish points. So then it's a matter of it's the difference between Verstappen and Antonelli, which I don't think will be 40 points. You can see here it's only 10. So this does support Russell, Antonelli, Red Bull. Red Bull have also been on their game for fastest pit stop points lately too.
The Sims are normally pretty spot on as well, so that does suggest something.
Ooh, note in the chat, raining hard in Vegas. Producer Greg,
That
look
is
out your
so
window. Tell me what
scary,
you
yeah.
see.
This is where we need Terry for the weather report.
I know. I was hoping to have Greg outside with an umbrella and we could just video him in. So now this shifts. Who do we like in the rain? Now, it's not going to rain tomorrow. So it's just a matter of who do we think is going to qualify high, set themselves up for a better position in the race. I'm sure a few of you are hoping maybe your top driver is out in Q1 because of the rain and they can march through the running order tomorrow, get a bunch of overtakes. Top 3 overtaking circuit each of the last 2 years. I'd like it. Is autopilot good this week? My top drivers are Antonelli and Max.
I think it's one of the best weekends potentially now because of all of this chaos to potentially use it.
Yeah, if I agree. Wet race, especially because Antonelli and Max on a dry race, you're probably not going to move the 2x off of Max. There's very little Antonelli can do unless Max has an engine failure. Here, with so many variables, there's a chance something could happen and that autopilot comes in for you. So I'd give it a shot. Juicebox confirms the track is very wet at the moment. Hopefully, you're not on the track yourself. If you are, run. All right.
Oh, scary times, scary times. Adam, I can tell you, I have locked in my team now. I have locked it in.
I'm gonna give it a few more minutes so we can get to a drum roll moment with you. We'll knock out a couple more questions, but this is big. Rick says Verstappen Hamilton front row due to rain. Could you imagine what turn 1 would look like tomorrow? The scenes. Hamilton will come out with another quote that says, I have nothing to lose. I'm sending it. Oh my goodness. Hamilton almost ended his night very early in Q3. That incident that almost was with Liam Lawson. Still keep thinking about it.
Oh, it's
Zach Brian wants to know, who are you giving the death eyes to be quiet?
Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it.
Give Zach a ton of credit. He didn't go to sleep and wake up for this. He has plowed through his whole night.
Yeah. So it's a little bit hectic where I'm at.
Ooh. Zach Attack, good name. I'm sure you like that name. Verstappen Hajar or Verstappen Alonso, or I believe Norris Alonso, and a free transfer rollover. I did something very similar to this with Norris and I had Norris and Sainz, and I went to Verstappen and Hajar and opted not to roll over a transfer. That's what I personally did.
I can say to Jan as well, I didn't take a -10. I didn't take a -10.
Fantastic.
I still agree it's not worth taking a -10 for most teams out there.
Ooh, Zach, here's a spicy one from Scott. Budget is 139.3. Probably the hottest budget we've seen all night. Running
Ooh.
Max and Lando. Is it better to move Lando to George? How much do you like Mercedes?
From what we've seen, I think it's better. Again, it just comes down to that. It's annoying where it's like, no, actually, it's not annoying. It's more of just the individual approach on how exactly what teams work with what teams. But it's the sense of, like we've talked about this entire live stream, in the sense of, how do you get back to a McLaren team in Qatar? If you are running Verstappen this weekend, if you're running no Norris this weekend, can you get back to it? And if you can, I definitely prefer the Russell-esque sort of in Vegas right now over a McLaren driver, or even Norris over. Yeah, I don't think even, sadly, I don't think Piastri's in the picture right now.
It's crazy how much the gap between Norris and Russell has closed just in FP3. Points, they're separated by 0.4 here. You come over to the betting lines, they're separated by nothing up here. So this is the first time ever that Norris to Russell isn't crazy.
It is one of those weekends. I'm so excited to see how it all pans out. And I can still just say to everyone, if it is the weekend where you are going to risk it for a chocolate biscuit, it is now. 100%. You're not going to get another weekend like this in Qatar or Abu Dhabi. This is it if you're going to go for it.
Zach, you and Race Maven are on the same page. He is, Race Maven has just super chatted us. Risk it for the chocolate biscuit. Triple mark 2x on Russell. So thank you very much, Race Maven. You are too kind.
Oh, I agree with where they're going though. Triple Merc, yeah. I think that's the way. That is a very good way to go. Especially when you're not above that 130-ish million range. You can't go much better than that right now. It's going to be a big weekend. Huge weekend.
George, on Final Fix, it doesn't require a transfer. It's an additional free one on top of everything else you've had. you do need to have the money to bring in the person you bring in, and it can't be a constructor.
Yeah. I think that also sort of goes back to like the B tier drivers as well, where it's like I would love for my team to have Behrman and Hadjar, but at a -10 to go from even a Colapinto, which is what I've had to deal with, Colapinto to a Hadjar, I don't think it's worth it. So it looks like the A tier drivers you've got to sort. I think the ladder is McLaren, Mercedes still look like the way to go. Then the changes you need to make look like the A tier drivers, and then if you have an extra transfer you can move about, then focus on the B tier drivers. Only if you can still afford to then move, if you do use that free extra transfer, back to a normal team for Qatar.
Got some questions in the chat about Terry's team. I don't think he posted it before he went to bed tonight. So we'll have to check with him tomorrow to see what he did post. Terry's getting some must
I don't blame him.
He is the smartest. Race Maven is coming for you if the biscuits don't work out, Zach. I agree.
I can tell you all, it's coming to that point in the season where I remember last year I was in a very similar position where I'm skirting on the outskirts of a top 1,000 result. And I remember last year for me, it was going for risking it with Leclerc 2 times in Abu Dhabi. Sometimes you just have to risk it, because for me, finishing 2,000th is the same as finishing 4,000th if it gives me the chance to finish in the top 1,000.
Yeah, agreed. And similarly, on the risk it for the chocolate biscuit theme, question in the chat, 135.4 million, third in their league with 280 points left to recover. Only 3 weeks left to do it. How about triple Mercedes, Leclerc, and Ferrari? Yeah, what the hell? I'd say 280 points. You've got to absolutely send it. So let's do it. Leclerc, we haven't talked about Charles Leclerc this whole time because Russell's been so good. But if you can run them both, Ferrari looks like they can handle these cooler temperatures. They looked good last year.
Yeah.
They look good in the practice sessions.
It'd be a huge differential to go for as well. And again, it just comes down to that point of how desperate are you to go for that? And it's such an individual thing again, where it's like different risk levels. Like I would completely understand someone in the top 1,000 sticking with McLaren and Mercedes, not going for the Leclerc look. But if you're around 5,000, I could fully understand why you'd go for that risk. Again, it just comes down to different preferences, where how willing are you to risk it? It really does come down to that.
We've got Slippery Boggle in the chat, who is 31st in the world. Should I YOLO differential, boom or bust? It's a fair point, because you got to imagine the top 10 or so teams are probably going to try to stay in their lane and just make some subtle moves. We saw this 2 years ago. We had 2 of the top teams in the world at the time on this stream. One of them really sent it because I'm either going to win or fall out of the top 10 either way. I might as well try something crazy. So as long as it's not too crazy, we're here for it.
One thing I would say, I've just had a quick look at the rankings just to see what I would say about that. The one thing is just how, I guess where would you say is where you'd want to risk it for? Because at the minute, first place to 31st is still over 100 points. So I think even with this differential, it'd be very, very, very hard to attack that right now. But I also fully understand. I agree. It's so difficult because there is no prize for 31st compared to 500th. But at the same time, just even saying you're in the top 50 in the global leagues is a huge achievement, which I think, even for me, if I can say if I was in your shoes, I think I wouldn't be risking losing that top 50, because that is an incredible achievement. Absolutely huge achievement for you.
Zach, I've been teasing your team for a while, but we haven't shown it. So maybe we should fire the screen share back up, because I gasped when I saw this.
I know.
Tell me what I'm looking at, Zach.
So it comes down to a little bit of, can you reach back to a normal team in Qatar? For me, all I need to do is replace Behrman and Verstappen, and I get back to a Norris and whatever B tier driver I need to get back to. Easy peasy, that works out for this weekend. The interesting thing is where that 2 times is. I need a differential. I'm in, and I wouldn't suggest it if I wasn't doing the exact same thing. For me, 2,800th in the world right now, there is no difference for me if I finish 2,800th compared to 6,000th in the world. If this gets me in the top 1,000, it's going to be a generational look back on. And right now, final 3 races of the seasons, you have to risk it. You have to. If you're in this position. But this is where I also go back to where, let's say you're just skirting on the top 1,000, you probably wouldn't do something like this. It really comes down to where you are and how you feel about it. For me, not being in the top 1,000 means top 1,000 to top 8,000, 9,000 is very similar.
Zach, I'm pulling for you. This is awesome.
Yeah. I am very worried. But yeah,
I'm so proud of you. Look at that move.
Gotta go for it.
I like it. Very similar team to what I have. Gasly just joined a little while ago. I have a very similar team here. Let me come over here just so you can see it. Verstappen, Russell, 2x on Max with basically the best B tier drivers I can afford here.
I am
so all we're hoping for is that Lando doesn't win, right?
Yeah, this is where we come out of quali and there. Norris first, Piastri second.
All right. McLaren, Red Bull, or Ferrari? Ooh. I'd say in that order, McLaren, Red Bull, Ferrari. If you were like we've been talking about for the last little while, if you're second or third in your mini league trying to make that jump and you want to do something crazy, by all means, go for it. But I would say stick with McLaren.
Yeah, I completely agree. It feels like I'm a broken what's the saying? A broken clock?
Record.
Yeah, broken record, yeah. Where I'm just saying the same thing over and over again, whereas I just think you'd have to take a -10 to get back to McLaren, which will definitely be the way to go for Qatar.
Sorry, race maybe I didn't mean to jinx it.
Touch wood.
Zach, King's Landing has been waiting patiently in the chat for you on this one. So their current lineup is Norris, Russell, Behrman, Alonso, Bortoleto, McLaren, Mercedes. They can use wildcard to get to Norris, Verstappen, Alonso, Gasly, Colapinto. Or switch Bortoleto and Gasly and carry the 3 transfers.
I would say carry the 3 transfers and go with the Gasly. Purely because I just don't think Norris Verstappen's the way to go this weekend. I think it's either Norris or Verstappen with Russell. I think you can't look away from Russell right now. Would I suggest everyone going 2 times Russell? Maybe not, but yeah.
My first thought was to straddle it in the middle, replace Norris with Verstappen, Bortoleto with Gasly. You're only going to have 2 free transfers next week, but you're also set up very nicely.
Yeah, actually true. Yeah, that could also very much work. I guess it depends, Kings. If you're setting up for an extra DRS, I can understand wanting that extra transfer. But if not, I agree. 100% you could work in the middle of that.
Kings, I'd vote Russell Verstappen. I don't know if you need the wild card to do it. There's only 3 races left, and I don't think you're going to terribly need the wild card after this. It's basically as long as you're not taking a penalty. Because if you have 3 free transfers and use the wild card, you're going to lose that free transfer for Qatar anyway.
This is an interesting question that we actually got back-to-back from 2 different people. Out of the B tier drivers, Sainz or Hadjar? Who would we... I think I know your answer from your team.
Yeah, so in my team, I swapped Sainz for Hadjar, and in doing so, cost myself a free transfer to carry over into Qatar. I'm feeling bold about Isaac this weekend, but the facts aren't so obvious that Hadjar is going to be better than Sainz. So I think it's rightfully a bit of a coin flip. Oh, we got Luke in the chat. Hey, Luke. Welcome aboard.
Yeah,
Rick.
I think I agree. Hadjar would be the way to go over Sainz from what we've seen right now.
Rick wants to know if Verstappen Russell lineup people have autopilot to use. Not the two of us.
I don't have it, but I think it would be a good move right now. Like from what we've seen me and Adam both go. You've gone Verstappen 2 times, I've gone Russell 2 times. It could go either way. It really could.
But I think we're confident it's going to go either of those two ways. Not that Lando's going to score 60. Final call for you, King's Landing. I'm going to vote Verstappen, Russell. If that's 2 free transfers, or 3 if you have 3, I would just do them that way. The wild card, I don't think would do you any other good.
I have just seen a very exciting thing in the chat. Correct me if I'm wrong, but Juicebox has just become the first member for 2 months. Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that is true.
That sounds about right. And you'll see we have tiers of membership icons. So Juicebox's icon would probably change into one of the upper levels. There's the podium hats and all the trophies and stuff. So we'll see what happens with Juicebox's name. But thank you so much for sticking around with this, Juicebox. Hopefully we have come through for you.
Ooh.
Stephanie, what is Zach's team? It's a Verstappen Russell build with Russell on the DRS boost.
I've gone all out. It like I mentioned before, it's got to the stage of the season where for me, 6,000th in the world is the same as 2,000th in the world. If it's not top 1,000, I'm not interested. I've got to go all in for it.
Ooh, Trenton going with Russell 2 times with Antonelli, Mercedes, and Red Bull. Looks like you've motivated everybody, Zach, to get risky. Check it out.
I'm excited to see how a team that goes without the McLaren really does do. I am really hoping for you that it does work out because I love when a differential does go that way. I really do.
Where does the 2x DRS go if you use Final Fix? So if you replace the 2x boosted driver, the driver you put in will get the boost automatically. You don't get any opportunity with Final Fix to move it about drivers on your team. So if you had Norris and then you Final Fix in Verstappen just gets the 2x.
This is slightly also why I'm a little bit more keen on autopilot because I really couldn't tell you between. I mean, even not taking Norris into consideration, I really couldn't tell you between Verstappen and Russell who's going to get the 2 times best boost. It really is. What do you feel on your gut? Go for that one. You just have to make a decision eventually.
Yeah, we're trying to extrapolate so much here because McLaren have not been good at this circuit 2 years in a row. They kept all the cards close to their chest in FP3, so we don't know if they're fast enough. Norris gave you enough of a peek to know that they're not bad, but not much more than that. Meanwhile, George Russell was putting it at the top of the timesheets in every session, won the race last year. It's not much more he can show you.
Yeah. It is going to be one of the. I'm really hoping I don't jinx it, and I will touch wood right now for everyone. It is going to be one of the most exciting weekends for F1 Fantasy. There's just so much up in the air, and this is what we live for in F1 Fantasy terms. Just so much chaos, just so many questions unanswered. We absolutely love it.
Couple quick questions in the chat to clean up. Gasly or Hadjar? Give me Hadjar.
Agreed.
Worth it to switch from Alonso to Hadjar or carry a transfer? I like Hadjar so much that I would do it without the transfer, but not so obvious to do it one way or another.
It all comes back to that big question. Yeah. If that free transfer is the only way you get back to McLaren in Qatar, then no. But if you're fine with using that free transfer and you can do it, then Hadjar definitely all the way.
Antonelli for Russell for -10. Right?
That is a hard -10.
I would challenge that your other 2 transfers are probably the ones that you could have saved to not have a -10. That'd be my guess. If you have enough time to throw what you have in the chat, I'd love to work that out because I hate that you have to make that decision.
I will say, everyone, 2 big things before we get to the deadline. First thing, 5 minutes. Make sure to lock in your teams. We've got 5 minutes to go. And also, 5 minutes, 5 more likes to 100 likes on this stream. If we can get to 100 likes
in the middle of the night,
yeah, it'd be absolutely incredible, everyone.
We would officially have the best community ever. Awesome. Let's see. Let's knock out some more questions while we wait on those likes. Alonso, Hadjar, Gasly, or Colapinto, Hadjar, Gas. Oh, so the difference is Alonso versus Colapinto. Oh boy.
Ooh.
Alonso has 7 DNFs on the year. I was at Vegas last year when an absolute corpse of a Williams was wheeled past me because of what Franco Colapinto did to it.
It really isn't a nice option between both of them.
No.
And this is me talking about, and I've got both of them. I think my mind would be going with Alonso though, just for the potential upside of it.
Yeah, because I think there's a slight chance Colapinto might have an issue if it's wet out there. It's as wet as they say it is. I think some of the rookie yips in the wet conditions could come out. Russell or Max for the 2X. We're a house divided. I went Max and Zach went Russell.
I have to thank everyone. In that last little push, we hit over 120 likes. That is insane. For like Adam's been mentioning this stream, insane for when this live stream is. Thank you all so much.
Terry's proud of each and every one of you. That's awesome. Thank you. Rebecca went with Max and Behrman and kept Alonso, so no -10. Thank you for listening to the crowd, Rebecca. Hopefully we don't let you down.
Yeah, me and Rebecca go very similar.
So that lineup we were looking at earlier, this person originally has Norris, Antonelli, Behrman, Alonso, Bortoletto, McLaren, Mercedes. Either go Norris, Antonelli, or Norris, Russell. There's got to be some other changes in there. Yeah, it would be dropping down a bunch of stuff to double Alpine for Russell.
William, I can tell you, I went with Russell 2 times, Verstappen, Behrman, Colapinto, Alonso, McLaren, Mercedes. It's a risky one, but it's one I've got to do to try push again.
I would say, looking back at this, I would stick with your current team and the 2 transfers to get to Hadjar and Gasly, because it's not only Antonelli and not taking the -10, it's Hadjar over Colapinto.
Yeah.
So that'd be enough to push me one way.
And for me, I still don't think Verstappen over Norris is worth the -10. But I guess that's potentially because I didn't put the 2 times on. Adam, how do you feel about that?
Wait, run that by me again. I was reading the question in the chat.
So Verstappen over Norris, is it worth the -10? For me, no, because he's not my 2 times. It could be, yeah, I was thinking it could be slightly different.
No, they're close enough to me where I think Norris is going to find himself in the first 2 rows or shocker out in Q1 and make up a ton of positions. He'll be fine. I don't think it's worth a -10.
Yeah. Ooh,
we're down to our last minute.
Yeah.
Good luck to all of you. Zach and I are going to turn it right back around and start filming our Qatar preview in just a few days. And then we'll be back here next weekend to get ready for the final sprint weekend of the season.
Ooh.
I'm going to be running the extra DRS boost, so I'm already going to start sweating for it. Zach, any final thoughts?
Let's just hope this rain doesn't cause too much chaos. Or at least chaos that helps all of our teams.
Thank you all so very much for joining. We'll see you right back here next week.
Take care, everyone.